وكذلك أوحينا إليك روحا من أمرنا ما كنت تدري ما الكتاب ولا الإيمان ولكن جعلناه نورا نهدي به من نشاء من عبادنا وإنك لتهدي إلى صراط مستقيم صراط الله الذي له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض ألا إلى الله تصير الأمور.
Mind you,
I was just like, wow, what am I supposed to
let me
say?
remind you, I know that it's something which is very sensitive. We're still following up on having an intimate relationship with the man and his wife as a mutual right, which both share. And I think we're talking about the etiquette of having this kind of relationship. We began by saying the supplication which the Prophet ﷺ prescribed, then giving a nice introduction, not just attacking. And we also said that it's prescribed to give, loves, kisses, hugs, and so on. That would really bring the wife into the mood of having a relationship.
What you're saying is to have what I was going to say, was to have a lawful, foreplay, a way to get your wife in the mood and then you in the mood to do.
I read that in Al-Mughni. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, may Allah be pleased with him, narrated that a man, before embracing his wife and having a sexual relationship with her, has to get her ready. So that's stated in the Sunnah. It's not something that we read in medical magazines or... No, that's something prescribed, to have to get her ready. And a man asked the Prophet ﷺ how to. He said that by kissing her and hugging her until she is sexually aroused, then you can have a sexual relationship with her. That brings to my mind why many cases that a husband would complain that he called his wife to bed and she said no. There is also a great part of mistake on his side, where he doesn't really approach her nicely, gently.
She's supposed to quit what she's doing and come and do it.
And to have this very, very special relationship, you have to be extremely gentle and kind, and understand that this is not a business that you're doing. Just satisfying your desire and run away. As a matter of fact, there is a hadith that the Prophet ﷺ has stated, that narrated by Abu Ya'la, that a man should be truthful to his wife while having a sexual relationship. How? How one should be truthful to his wife while having an intimate relationship. He said that if he achieves satisfaction of his sexual desire, he should not leave before making sure that she too have reached
the same
her desire, being satisfied. And that's mutual right. It's not only for the man, it's also for the wife as well.
This is a terribly sensitive subject for you brothers, isn't it? Yes.
But how would one learn about that? What's the source?
Here we're talking.
No, there are a lot of things that you haven't mentioned, and you can't talk about it in the show. So,
remember one thing.
Yeah.
Remember one thing. That there is no limits between a man and a wife in regards of what to see and what not to see.
Except for two things.
Okay?
Two things you can't do with your wife.
Yes. The second, you may embrace her and approach her sexually from any position, as long as you avoid the back passage. So having a relationship in the proper place, whether from front, from behind, from whichever position, as the hadith stated, is permissible. And also keep in mind that you should avoid having a relationship or anything that leads to an intercourse during the menstruation. And of course, while fasting during the day of Ramadan, or while in a state of ihram, while performing Hajj.
So is there certain books or websites that one can visit?
Well, definitely there is a beautiful book called Tuhfatul Wadud fi Ahkam al-Mawlud. And
in English, there's 3 books by Sheikh Muhammad Jabali. The one that people should read about this is, what's it called? Bismillah. Closer Than a Garment. It's about how you should treat your wife and the mutual, which are excellent resources in English. I mean,
Also
as a
تحفة العروس,
translation
I
of
think.
تحفة العروس,
Yeah.
as a translation of the verse which says that هن لباس لكم وأنتم لباس لهن. They are to you like your garment, and you are to them like their garment. This is how close you are to each other.
No, you
a
don't
husband
never have a
and wife.
relationship like you have with your wife. I mean, it's the closest
Absolutely.
relationship you have with anybody.
No one whatsoever can see from you what your wife or your spouse could see from you, and vice versa. Supposedly, a man is interested with a mutual agreement with his wife, of course, to have another relationship. The Prophet ﷺ used to do that sometimes, but he would do the following, and this is very important etiquette we should bring to your attention. The Prophet ﷺ would either perform wudu or ghusl. If you're capable to perform ghusl right away, please do so, or otherwise at least wudu, because that's best for your personal hygiene, and that's also best to bring you to freshness and activity and make you stronger to have another relationship.
You know what I notice a lot when we talk about this? It's kind of off topic, but how Islam and science kind of go hand in hand on a lot of things.
They definitely go.
Take a ghusl to make yourself clean for hygiene, and science proves the same thing. But that's off topic. So
They definitely go.
Yeah.
Just keep in mind that when you take a ghusl, there is an intention. You know, for a non-Muslim who takes a bath or takes a shower after having a relationship with his wife, is no ghusl, because it's lacking of intention. The intention of having a ghusl is removing the major impurity. Because once you have a relationship with your wife, or there is a sexual discharge from either one, right away that would require you to purify yourself by performing ghusl, to be able to pray, to be able to recite the Quran or enter the masjid. Without that, you can. So it's required immediately as much as you can.
I heard a good saying about intention, that actions without intention are like carrying around a water jug full of dirt. I mean, it's good you have the water jug, but it's doing you no good because it's full of dirt.
And we have a hadith, which is the core of the deen, that the Prophet ﷺ stated that indeed actions are but by their intentions.
Yes.
And every person will be recompensed according to his intention,
He who
not
lacks
necessarily
faith
the
will
action.
not.
Yes. Yeah.
That's one of my favorite
I'd
hadiths.
like to say here that, let me say, intimate relation is like a fruit. You cannot have a fruit without a tree. And you cannot have a tree without the soil. I'd like to say that fruit is the intimate relation. Tree is the love. And soil is, let me say, patience and bearing each other. So if we have the tree, the proper tree, you will have the proper fruit. And then everything
I
comes
didn't know
easy.
that you invited a poet here.
Yes, yeah, I didn't know this either. But that's actually very beautiful, because you can't have a good tree if you have bad soil. And you can't have good fruit if you don't have a good tree.
You see, Amr and Muhammad, who was the happiest man on earth? That was the Prophet
I
ﷺ.
thought you were talking about me.
Who was the
again.
happiest husband and the best of all?
Muhammad
That was
sallallahu
Prophet
alaihi
Muhammad
Sallallahu
ﷺ. With all the responsibilities he used to bear, with all the duties he used to take care of. He was a leader of a nation. He did not ignore
His wives.
the right of his wives.
In plural.
At once he had 9.
MashaAllah.
The
Bismillah.
Prophet ﷺ.
The best
and
of
would
all
take care of
humanity.
all of them at once, never ignore the right of any of them. So a man should really keep in mind that it's not only my rights, my huquq, her duties upon me. No, it's also
Your duties upon her.
my duties upon me, the duties upon me towards her, and her rights upon me.
Is it mentioned in the Sharia how often a man is advised to come to his wife?
No, that goes to the urf, with a mutual agreement between the man and his wife. We've discussed before that Umar ibn Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him, once was patrolling the city, in Medina al-Munawwara, and he overheard a lady was chanting a poetry.
Yeah.
And he understood from that that she's been missing her husband,
Yeah.
who's been deployed to a battlefield. So Umar ibn Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him, right away went to his daughter Hafsa, who was the Prophet's wife, and inquired from her, Ya Hafsa, how long could a woman stay away from her husband? She said, and why do you ask such a question? He said, Subhanallah, glory be to Allah, you know that I'm responsible for all those people. It's for the benefit of the Ummah. She said, 4 to 6 months. So Umar ibn Khattab stated a very important rule, unprecedentedly, that any soldier, any Muslim who goes to a battlefield or deployed to a camp, that should not stay on the camp more than 4 months. And maybe a month going and a month coming back, so total is 6 months. Keeping in mind that this wife who's staying home also have rights. So the state, the individual, the family, everybody's playing a role in fulfilling each other's rights.
So there is no limit.
As you said, it depends.
You got to pray. You still got to go to the masjid.
We mentioned also that the Prophet ﷺ used to enjoy bathing with his wife. And there is a hadith where Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha ardaha stated that she used to bath along with the Prophet ﷺ, having a container of water or a vessel in between them. And he used to beat her to the water. So she would laugh with him and say, let me grab some water. So having fun is not being seized once you have sexually satisfied your desire.
Yeah, once you're done, you're not done.
It's extended beyond that. She's your intimate friend. She's your best man in your life. She's your wife. Similarly, or to her. So the relationship should extend and continue even after having an intimate relationship.
So let me get what you're trying to say. Your relationship with your wife shouldn't be you come home and, dinner, where's my dinner? And then I want to have some relations with you. Then I'm going to go take a shower. I'm going to go to bed. This shouldn't be your relationship. Your relationship should be fun and lighthearted and jovial.
That's literally a machine.
No, yes. My pots are cold. How come my pots are cold? How come here? Now I'm going to be in the shower. So this isn't good.
No one doubts that the Prophet ﷺ would be the busiest man on earth. Right?
No?
Yes, of course.
In the midst of all of that, he would call on Aisha and say, Ya Aisha, let's race. And he was coming back from a long journey, and he had many of his companions. So he sent them away and said, Ya Aisha, let's race. I mean, I wouldn't believe it if I was there, that An-Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, while he is extremely busy, the busiest man on earth is asking his wife to race. So she did race with him. And she won because she was young. And the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam keeps that in mind. Years later, as Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha gets older and heavier, he says, Ya Aisha, let's race. Well, she had forgotten about the first incident. So the second time the Prophet ﷺ wins, and then he says, هذه بتلك. I'm paying you back. Or even Ya Aisha.
Okay, I'm going to go and try to round up something for us to eat, something for us to drink, and then we'll come back and we'll continue this.
Inshallah.
Bismillah.
خيركم من تعلم القرآن وعلمه ورتل القرآن ترتيلا. Learning how to recite the Quran properly, learning the meaning of what we recite, concluding the ahkam from the verses which we recite, trying to implement what we learn in our daily life. We'll listen to the participants and the guests. We'll take your phone calls. We're going to recite live. We'll listen to your recitation and we'll correct it according to the rules and regulations which we'll state in each episode. Now, your dream will come true.
We've been talking about all the fun stuff, all the stuff, like, hey, we're having fun with our wives. But what about the business aspect of it? What about like inheritance and all the financial aspects of marriage? We haven't talked about those. Those are big.
True. This is actually whatever you just brought up. This is actually one of the rights which are shared rights between the spouses, the husband and the wife. And this is very interesting because before Islam it was totally different. But when Islam came and when the Quran was revealed, it stated all the rights for both, not only for one of them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stated, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لا يحل لكم أن ترثوا النساء كرها ولا تعضلوهن لتذهبوا ببعض ما آتيتموهن. The call is upon the believers, all you who believe, it's not permissible for you to inherit women against their will, and we'll explain how. Nor should you treat them with harshness to make them give you some of what you have given them in dowry without a just reason. Basically, Sayyiduna Zayd ibn Aslam narrated that Ahl Yathrib, the people of Medina before the Prophet ﷺ had come and before Islam, they have this habit. If a man dies, leaving behind a lot of wealth, children and a wife, his wife would be also concluded as a part of his wealth. So his heirs, his brother, his father, or his cousin, would capture everything, including his wife.
How would they split her up?
He would take her. He would take her to do what? Well, if she's pretty, he would marry her. And if she's not, he would keep her. He would not even allow her to go free or to get married. Unless, if she wants to, she has to pay. So not only losing a husband and not getting anything out of his wealth, which is her right, but also
She has to give some money.
yeah, giving a ransom, freeing herself like a slave, even though she was a free woman. So Islam came to demolish all those false practices and state the following rights to both man and a woman. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stated in Surah An-Nisa that وَلَكُمْ نِصْفُ مَا تَرَكَ أَزْوَاجُكُمْ إِن لَّمْ يَكُن لَّهُنَّ وَلَدٌ فَإِن كَانَ لَهُنَّ وَلَدٌ فَلَكُمُ الرُّبُعُ مِمَّا تَرَكْتُمْ. This ayah of Surah An-Nisa explains the inheritance law between the spouses, just in case if any of them dies first. So he says to the man that you get half of the inheritance of the wealth of your wife if she does not have a son from you or from somebody else. But if she does, you only get 1/4. إِن لَّمْ يَكُن لَّهُنَّ وَلَدٌ. Of course, after you distribute, you pay off the well and the debt and so on. And what is the case if the husband dies? وَلَهُنَّ الرُّبُعُ مِمَّا تَرَكْتُمْ إِن لَّمْ يَكُن لَّكُمْ وَلَدٌ فَإِن كَانَ لَكُمْ وَلَدٌ فَلَهُنَّ الثُّمُنُ. They get 1/4 of your wealth, of what you leave behind, if you don't have a son. But if you do, then you only get 1/8. First of all, we have to keep in mind that's a divine legislation that came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not from any human. Second, we have to study the case before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed those beautiful verses where compare when a woman has no rights whatsoever.
Islam was the first religion to give women rights in any way, in any shape or form.
Versus now, she owns herself, her freedom of getting married after the iddah, the waiting period, freedom of possessing her own wealth and spending it whichever way she likes as long as it is in the proper way, and inheriting the wealth of her husband if he dies first.
Instead of the people taking it.
So this is a very, very important right. I thought it's very important to discuss.
But some people criticize the rule that a woman gets a half of what a man gets, and they say that this is unfair. How come?
I wish, Muhammad, you have attended with us from the beginning as we were talking about the qiwama and that degree which Allah gave to men over women. And we concluded that this degree is a degree of responsibility, where a man is responsible for housing, lodging, food, everything. Who pays the dowry?
The man.
The man. Who is responsible for furnishing the house?
The man.
Who is responsible for the expenditure and spending on the house?
The man.
Sending kids to school and paying for... Right? So keeping in mind that the man is in charge for all of that. That's number one. Number two, that normally, in general cases, that men go to work and they travel here and there and they accumulate and pile up wealth. right? So let's say that a man left behind $130,000, okay? 1/4 of that will be $30,000, and 1/8, $15,000. But let's say that a woman collected from gifts here and there, inheritance from her father or whatever, a wealth of $40,000. We're saying that men work more and they pile up wealth more than women. That's the general case, right? Sometimes there are exceptions. We have to admit to that fact. So 1/2 of the $40,000
$20,000
is $20,000. And 1/4
is only
is $10,000.
10,000.
If a woman desires to get married after the iddah, 4 months and 10 days, she may, right?
She gets it done.
Is she responsible for paying anything? No. She gets, once again, a dowry, housing, and all the
Lodging.
spending is on,
Food,
right?
clothes.
Versus if she dies and he's planning to get married. He is responsible for paying a new dowry,
Putting a new house.
everything
furniture,
from the scratch.
Everything.
Somebody might say, but if he dies leaving behind children, they also get their share of the inheritance. Everyone gets their share. So we see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful, and He knows best. His wisdom requires that should be the way of dividing the inheritance. And before criticizing or objecting, remember the case before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it this way.
And doesn't the Creator know the condition of His creation better than we do?
Subhanallah. Now,
Are there any other rights that we have mutually besides inheritance?
there is many. One of them is, of course, having children. Because the Prophet ﷺ stated in one hadith that once the servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dies, all his righteous deeds will discontinue, except from 3 ways. He counted one of them as
Children.
having not just children,
Right.
a righteous
child.
child,
Who
a
makes
righteous
up a
son, who will pray for him, right? So it's not fair for a wife to deceive her husband. And because I've heard that a woman would say that I'm just testing him for the first couple of years, whether he's going to be good to me or not. That's not fair. Without informing him, she's been postponing her conception. That's haram. And similarly, if the husband decides, I'm not going to really have children before I know her manners and study her very well, so that he would force her not to have children by taking contraceptives or etc. Having a child is a right of both. That's a mutual right. Neither one of them should prevent the other from having and enjoying this right. Keeping in mind, it's all in Allah's hand. I mean that they may keep trying
You could try
and
many
have
times
none,
and still have nothing.
but they should be thankful anyway, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who grants either boys, girls, or make them twins, or
Make them
make
triplets.
them infertile. No.
So, like, I know a lot of where I'm from, there's a lot of people that they don't want to have kids. You hear couples get married, and they say, well, we're not having children. We have dogs. These are our babies, these dogs. And I've always thought, well, that's a strange way to live, because the whole point of marriage, as I said once before, is to have children. That's the whole point.
This is one of the negatives of living in a society where the vast majority are not Muslims. The deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not been taught in the streets as well as in the schools. So that you get influenced, of course, negatively, right? And unfortunately, some Muslim families acquire those bad traits. So instead, they're very satisfied with their pet, whether it's a cat or a dog.
No, a dog.
Okay? Or might say, well, one is enough. I can barely take care of one. While the Prophet ﷺ, when he initially prescribed marriage, he said, تناكحوا تناسلوا تكاثروا فإني مباهم بكم الأمم يوم القيامة. He advised us and enjoined upon us to get married. Why? So that we can have children, as many as possible. Why? Because if you do, I'll be proud of you outnumbering other nations on the Day of Judgment.
Doesn't every child bring its own risk? Doesn't it bring its own provision?
Absolutely. Don't you ever think that it is you who provide for your children? That's not true. Absolutely. nor do you think that by having a child that would really reduce your wealth, will take away from your saving and will affect you negatively. That's not true, because it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who provides for us and for them. Before even they were created, before they were in the womb of their mothers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have destined and ordained their provision and their rizq. It's just that a person should really put their trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and understand that no one comes to this life without their provision.
No.
And
Even while in the womb, the angel would come and record their provision throughout their life.
And what if some say, we will only have one child or two children, we want to bring them up in the best way? Is that okay?
What about if they say we'll only have one child and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not give them any at all?
Yes.
Like Suleiman, when he said, I will go and I will have relations with all my wife and I'll have 100 sons. But he didn't say,
The
inshallah,
key,
yes.
the key to all of that really is understanding your deen,
Was it haram to say so?
learning the message of the Prophet ﷺ and putting your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah, it's permissible to give a gap between having children so that you'll be able to raise them. But to limit and say, oh, I'm not going to have but just one child, it may be that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not give you that child.
Kids got playing around in there. I think I got to go
How many do you have?
I think I need to go see what they broke in there. So, inshallah, next week we can get together again.
Inshallah.
Is that
Before
cool
we
with you guys?
leave, I would like to supplicate this dua in the Quran. رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ وَاجْعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. And I would like to say, سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. وجزاكم الله خيرا. May Allah bless you and your family.
Jazakumullah khairan.
Thank you for the nice hospitality.
Hospitality. I didn't do anything. I didn't even give you guys something to drink.
And see you all inshallah next time. جزاكم الله
Bye.
خيرا.
Thank you.
السلام عليكم.
Wa alaikum assalam.